Okay, so this is Danny and Athena. We thought we'd just have a chat about the preparation of the 144,000 because we've been getting a lot of queries about this. So I think the first thing that we need to talk about is the fact that they're all called as prophets.
Yes, they're all called as prophets, and they will also suffer the prophets.
Yeah, they go through the same training. Yeah, they come in the spirit of Elijah. Yeah, they speak for the Lord. They'll be John the Baptist. They'll emerge from the wilderness, and their job is to prepare a people for the coming of the Lord.
And while you're in the wilderness, or as we are, you get trained, you get survival skills that will keep you going, to trust and believe that the God has got you on the right track.
Yeah, and that's really important. That
very
training,
important,
because one of the things that we want to bring up today is the amount of false prophecies out there at the moment that are saying that the 144,000 are ready.
Yes.
And to go forth. And if they were to go forth at this time, they'd be going forth into their own destruction, because the 144,000 are not ready.
Not prepared, There's so much deception in the world at present. You don't know which way it's going to bounce. So you've got to rely on the Lord to tell you that. And the only way to rely on Him is to suffer Him, suffer what Jesus went through, suffer what John the Baptist went through. All these things strengthen us. Elijah hid for a long while, was led everywhere to the widow who fed him with the unending bag of flour and oil.
Yeah.
So, trust, and you'll survive.
Yeah, and I think that's important, bringing Elijah up there too, is because one of the very important things that the 144,000, because they're prophets, they have to learn to warfare against Jezebel.
Yes.
And because Jezebel is different to every other spirit. I used to wonder why Jesus only ever mentioned Jezebel when he was talking to the 7 churches. Yeah, there were there's all these other spirits. There's spirit of death and anger and jealousy and spirit of whatever, but he only ever mentioned Jezebel. And then I discovered that where you have certain spirits, they attach to a certain thing, such as a spirit of death will attach to death events, or a spirit of anger will attach to anger things. But the thing about Jezebel is that because she's such a powerful principality, she attaches to any uncircumcised flesh. She has access into every single area in our life that hasn't been redeemed. Yeah,
and continues to, because we're all sinners and we all have problems. So you sort the problems out. The problems might leave you, but you know that they're there, and you know God is with it. And so you can talk to people about problems. So you suffer problems to talk about problems.
Yeah, they keep reminding you. You can overcome them as such, but they keep reminding you of your humanity.
Exactly.
Because we were talking the other day, I think it was only yesterday, about what you call shiny Christians.
Yeah. They're shiny Christians, all sunshine and roses, but
Well, but how they paint this, they won't allow their humanity to show. Everything's got to be perfect. They've got to look perfect. They've got to be seen as perfect. They've got to try and act perfect.
You can tell by their shininess how they've got the suits and the ties and the shiny faces. They're not real.
No, they're in their need to portray perfection, they actually do the opposite. They reveal their greatest weakness, which is a lack of trust in God.
Yeah.
They won't be vulnerable. They won't open up and talk about their... I mean, I don't like doing it.
No,
I hate it. I hated making that last video where I had to open up. It was like having a can opener. Open up my life, and I had to talk about you know, my greatest pains and my greatest sins,
Weaknesses,
you know.
yeah. And you know, we all got weaknesses. We're human. We're born in the likeness of Adam, and you know, he was born in the likeness of God, but sin. So everyone who's born out of Adam has got sin in their lives, you know. So you accept that and work with it, and God will help you, and you'll be able to help people through your own suffering.
Yeah.
Sins.
So understanding and overcoming our weaknesses actually it becomes our strengths.
Yeah.
And when you can't be vulnerable,
Yeah.
then you're not allowing God to work in those areas, and then there are your weaknesses. That's where Satan gets in.
Attacked by Jezebel.
Yeah, and also you can't help others.
No.
And a lot of these people have that rapture escape mentality.
Yes.
You know, because they don't trust the Lord, no matter what's going to come into their life, because they can't trust the Lord, they want to escape the suffering.
Yeah, but everyone suffers. I mean, Jesus did 40 days. He was tempted for 40 days and 40 nights, you know, through all the sins. John the Baptist walked out of the desert.
They come out of the wilderness, and it's in the wilderness that all that stuff gets dealt with, even Moses.
Yeah.
I mean, God forsook Moses for 40 years when he was in the wilderness. He withdrew.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until Moses saw the burning bush again that God renewed the call on his life. But while he was in the wilderness, God got Egypt out of him.
Yeah, got the leadership out of him.
Yeah, and he'd stepped out at the beginning, you know, because he got the call on his life. But then he stepped out, you know, when he killed the Egyptian guard. And he stepped out thinking that's what he was supposed to do. And,
then
you know,
got fear and ran away.
Yeah. But he was sort of doing it in his own strength, you know. And so all that has to die. It dies in the wilderness. And so it really worries me that there's so many prophets telling the 144,000 that they're going to be released soon, or you know, to push and
go
God's
out.
timing.
Save the world from the sinners, you know, save the sinners.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's a timing. That's our dog making the noise. He's squeezing his squeeze toy. He's still a puppy. It's a she. Why am I saying? Anyway, what was I saying about? Oh, yeah, there's a timing. God, you know, until the Antichrist is revealed, we are not to go. And it's also contrary to the truth, because since I posted that video on how God called me, I was talking about me at that time, but since then we've talked about how he called both of us. But since then, we've had so many inquiries from people who know that they've been called as prophets, but they're in process.
Yes.
And they're saying to us, how can you, what wisdom can you share with us that can help us go forward? And they know that they're not ready.
Yes.
That's the evidence.
Yeah, and all these other people are telling them they're ready, but you know, if they go out now, they'll be slain. As in all prophets through the ages.
Well, I know that since starting the videos, and particularly since talking about have the call of a prophet on my life, the amount of people with the Jezebel spirit that has tried to lock onto me.
Yeah.
Because this is the singular most important thing you can learn about Jezebel, is that she'll come to you she can attack us from without and from within. Yes. Yeah. But she will use people who will try to they will try to manipulate the circumstance.
Come up in friendship.
Yeah, through either friendship or I want to support you or do this or do that. And what she's trying to do is get you to join her spirit to hers or his or whoever it is, that this Jezebel, they will say things like, oh yeah, we're one in the spirit, or oh, you know, I want to support you, or whatever, or whatever it is. Jezebel will try to get you to attach your spirit to her through relationship somehow, so that you will share in her curses. Because as soon as we join our spirit to Jezebel, curses will start to happen in our life. So,
and those curses are there to show you what the truth is.
Yeah, we can learn from it.
Learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to run away, but to learn from them. Run away from Jezebel for definite. Because only God can deal with her. As in all prophets, you know, through the ages, you know, as in Micah from 1 Kings 22, you know, you come out and tell the truth, and the leaders of the world are going to hate you. They're going to try and get you to change and to rub you out. But you just hold on to the truth, which is what God is showing you, and only God showing you, not other people. You believe in yourself and what He tells you.
Yeah, and of course it was interesting what you were saying earlier about this with Micah, the one in Kings, not the one from the book of Micah, where all the false prophets, Micah was the only one telling the truth. The only one listening to God and telling the truth. All the others
were sucking up to the kings.
Well, they were doing it for usury. They were doing it for money. But it said that God sent us
the spirit of deception, lying tongues.
Lying tongues, And so all of them, I mean, we've been in that position before in that church. Remember when all the prophets told the pastor was getting ready to leave the church, and all the prophets, they gathered all the prophetic people in the church to pray for them, and every single one of them said, leave. Go and do this thing that you've got in your heart to do. And I was praying one morning because the pastor's wife was having a birthday, and I just thought, I'll write her out a card. I was never invited into the inner group. And even though you were an elder in the church, I was never invited into the inner group. But I thought, I'll do the right thing. I knew all the others had been invited to her birthday, and I thought, I'll just write her out a birthday card. And God gave me this scripture. I can't remember where it's from, but it says, stay in the city until I give you new orders. So I knew God was saying to them, don't go. So anyway, I put that in the birthday card. And the minute she got home from her luncheon, she rang me, and it's the only time I think she'd ever spoken to me. She rang me and she said, which was incredible because it was a small church, it wasn't a big church. She rang me and she said, how come you're the only one saying this? You know, you're the only one saying don't go. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but God spoke to me about it, and I have to be faithful to that. And anyway, they left. They went. What was only probably a month later they went. And 2 weeks after he arrived, the ministry that he went to fell apart. Completely fell apart, and he was left without a job and without anything in another state. So, not that I was happy about that. We did, we conversed.
We conversed. He was a lovely fellow.
He was just led away by his own. God used it to take him on a journey. But anyway. So we stayed in contact with him for some time.
Yeah, we did.
And I'm not sure anyone else did. I don't know if anyone else supported him through that bad period, but we did. So
so in all things, you know, trust in yourself and trust in God. You know, if you're on a journey with Him, there are hardships and there are problems to solve, and there's things to clean out. So, you know, as we both happened to. Both of us, we cleaned out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, now and we've shared about that too. Another interesting thing that came up that somebody asked us about, and that was that he was feeling, he knew that he'd been called as a prophet and that he'd been doing certain things, but he felt that he'd fallen into apathy and a lack of motivation.
Yes. These things you go through those, even we went through those too, and you just it's
Well, they come from the Lord.
they come from him. The test trials, that's all part of the trials and tribulations of
Yeah, God will test your
everything.
God will test you to see what you're made of.
Yeah.
And there's no better way that God will withdraw from you.
Yes.
He can withdraw. He can withdraw for years if that's what he feels he needs to do.
As in Moses.
Yeah, and I'm sure Joseph felt that when he was in the dungeon
and in the pit.
Yeah, and so God can withdraw, and in those times you'll be tested. So very often they come from the Lord. They build perseverance, they build strength, and God will see what you're made of and whether you've got the stuff.
Yes.
Because just because we're called doesn't mean we're going to be chosen. It'd be very nice if that was the case, but we've got free will.
Yes.
And that's what it boils down to.
Free will.
Some people want to be shiny.
Yep.
And other people want to get real, get down, get dirty, and they're willing to pay that cost.
Well, to pay the price of
because it'll cost.
Yeah, it'll cost. It'll cost you everything. And in that everything that costs, if you stick past and learn, he'll repay you double for what you've done. But you still, even when you repay you double, you still be in a trial. Because then you got to stop with the shininess.
Yeah. And we might just finish up talking about training. I mean, God is in control of our training.
He is.
But we're in control of our education, and you can never come to the end of that.
No.
One of the things we need to do is really study the prophets.
Yeah.
Now, it's a bit pointless studying the prophets in the New Testament because their words aren't recorded. We have John the Baptist and we have Jesus. So the New Testament example of a prophet are the words of Jesus. We need to really study what he said, how he behaved, how he presented God, because that's why Jesus came. He came to reveal the Father. And but we also need to learn a lot about the Old Testament prophets.
Yes.
And what they did and what their message was, because that will be our message. And the interesting thing about the Old Testament prophets, I just want to bring up in case it's not obvious to you, is that they did not condemn people to hell, to a burning, everlasting, eternal fire. Their message was always a message of restoration and salvation. That was always their message. Yes, they had to warn of impending destruction if they and that always came as captivity or death, but not this burning and eternal fire.
And it was always to God's people, which today encompasses the world of God's people who believe in God and who know God, whether they believe or not. But so the message wasn't to the unsaved; it was always to God's people.
It was absolutely important note. It is, yep. And that is our message. That's the message of the 144,000 is the same message that's in Revelations 14, which is the message of the three angels' proclamation. And that's to warn what is coming and to not worship the image of the beast. The image of the beast is more important than even the mark of the beast. So the mark of the beast comes by worshipping the image of the beast. And a lot of people were putting too much emphasis on an actual tattoo or a microchip or whatever, and I think that's an illusion.
It's a false trail.
Yeah, it's a false trail. We're not saying it's not real and that it won't come, that there won't be something. But if people are focusing on a natural microchip, then they're not focusing on the spiritual, which is
Yeah.
don't worship the beast. So we're to be transformed into the image of Christ. Whereas if we take on the worldly image, then we're taking on the mark of the beast. Yeah,
the
okay.
image of the beast. Yeah.
So we might finish there. Nice chatting with you.
Yeah. Good luck in all your journeys. May God be with you and show you the way. Light under your feet.
Yeah.
And it's the roads less travelled that is the road hopefully you'll find.
It's like few go on the narrow path. Nearly everyone seems to go on the wide path. It's very hard to find people speaking truth on the anywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we'll speak again. Bye.
Bye.